that Oswald proved how easy it was to get a gun without proper background checks or other controls on private ownership of gun rights. We know this goes back to the United Nations Disarmament Treaty signed by the United States and many other countries. And it was a precursor, of course, to the 1968 Gun Control Act, modeled on none other than Nazi gun control disarmament acts. But it's really sick because they cite national security. They say to prevent the overthrow of the government, which was overtaken by a coup of criminals in the JFK assassination, they want to pursue greater gun restrictions of the people, so the people don't take their country back, based on another provocateur false flag case with none other than Lee Harvey Oswald. What did he claim to be? A patsy. Just a patsy, and certainly he was. It's proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, by the way, that he couldn't have done that shooting without a little alley-oop assistance from God or maybe the Warren Commission writers to suspend the laws of time and gravity and the space continuum, and on and on. Just another strange tie-in to that famous case of when our country began to go clearly in the wrong direction. Meanwhile, the UK has banned a self-defense expert from entering the country. Was it because he was critical of the UK's self-defense policies, or was it because he was coming to teach citizens how to defend themselves if they're attacked by a criminal? Now, the UK already has a lot of laws against knife ownership. They basically have a gun ban, and now they really don't even want people to learn how to do hand-to-hand self-defense combat. That's the case surrounding U.S. Navy SEAL Tim Larkin, who tried to enter the country but was denied, where he was going to give seminars and, as I mentioned, had been critical of the Labour Party's policies and other UK policies discouraging British citizens from using any kind of self-defense whatsoever. Just a celebration of that sick culture. And it reminds us of how talk show hosts were not allowed into the country because they were critical of the UK, and on. You can see where these policies are growing into a total tyranny to clamp down our populations. Now, coming up, as you know, we have our guest, Chelsea Schilling. She's a WorldNet Daily writer. She's exposing how Facebook and other social media are actually empowering the pedophiles. Meanwhile, this just broke while we were preparing the show. Viewing child pornography online now deemed not to be a crime, according to a New York court, that if you're proven to be viewing child pornography, that's okay as long as you weren't deliberately saving the images or deliberately sharing them. Meanwhile, they want to pass legislation to shut down websites on supposed copyright infringement without notification or due process to defend yourself and explain if you had a good reason. But child pornography is to be accepted, and we're going to be conditioned that this is a normal part of society. Just sick. All that's coming up. But first, we'll hit the quote of the day, and then we have a speech from Senator Rand Paul. Today's quote comes from the War of 1812, the Indian leader. "A single twig breaks, but the bundle of twigs is strong." That's from Tecumseh. I do not recall what tribe he's part of, but you can see how that kind of early quote leads into what later became used by governments as the policy of fascism. The bundled sticks is stronger. Centralized government is what we need, not decentralized, independent people who could think for themselves and may even still have some morals. No, we want the government to take over everything. Long-term planning. We know it's best, but child pornography would be all right. Anyway, Senator Rand Paul, his father, all of them have run a great campaign for liberty. They're trying to revive the country, maybe even transform the co-opted and terrible GOP party itself. But nonetheless, an inspiring speech, values we want to consider, spread, and have in the minds of everyone as we continue to set brush fires for liberty. We take you to that now. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you. Told me just last week the Tea Party's dead. You're done for. He says it's over. He says you have no influence and that we will be beaten and that there's no future for the Tea Party. Harry, tell us, which one is it? Speaking in this Texas heat, I'm reminded of Castro. He used to give these 8-hour speeches in the Cuban sun. He was given one of these interminable speeches, and from the crowd came a voice saying, "Peanuts, popcorn, Cracker Jacks, Castro got mad, but he went on. 5 minutes later, or maybe 5 hours later, he heard it again. Peanuts, popcorn, Cracker Jacks. And he says, I hear that again, I'm gonna kick your butt all the way to Miami. All of a sudden, the entire crowd said, peanuts, popcorn, Cracker Jacks. I did have a problem with those light bulbs. I've got a problem with my toilet. I mean, I want the government out of my bedroom, but I also want them out of my bathroom. They tell me what kind of light bulb I can use, what kind of toilet paper. For goodness sakes, these Hollywood celebrities want to tell you how much toilet paper you can use. Is that the nanny state or what? They tell you what kind of shower heads you can have. You know, the light bulbs cost $4. I asked the Department of Energy woman, are you against choice? She said, oh no, I'm for choice in light bulbs. I said that you're precisely not for choice in light bulbs. You won't let us make a decision. By the way, do you hate poor people? How are regular people going to afford $4 light bulbs? So President Obama gave a prize recently, $10 million prize to Philips Electric to develop a energy-efficient, cost-effective light bulb. You know how much the light bulb costs? $50. How much did we give Philips Electric? $10 million to develop a $50 light bulb. It's insane. We live in a nanny state. There are 38 federal agencies that are armed. Now you may say we need to have a police, we need to have an army, but does the Department of Agriculture need a SWAT team? No! Recently, the Department of Agriculture showed up with automatic weapons and with a Gestapo-style SWAT team to close down a company that was doing the horrendous crime of selling milk directly from the cow. Recently, Fish and Wildlife showed up at Gibson Guitar, once again with armed agents. You know what their crime was? They're accused of breaking an Indian, not a U.S., an Indian labor law that says their product needs to be finished in India. It's a labor protection law, but they're being persecuted and prosecuted for breaking a law that's not even a U.S. law. We put a U.S. citizen, a Florida citizen, in jail for the crime of breaking a Honduran fishing regulation. He got 8 years in prison. One of the regulations was that the fish needed to be imported in cardboard boxes, not plastic. That's a criminal offense under the Lacey Act. We've let our government get away from us. But we're at a point where we need a new generation of leaders. We need leaders who believe in the Constitution. We need to know who will be the next generation, who will be our leaders. Roger Waters asked, he said, did you trade your heroes for ghosts? Did you exchange a walk-on part in a war for a lead role in a cage? Recently, I met an Egyptian woman. When they're put on trial in Egypt, they're put in a cage. She's accused of promoting secular democracy in Egypt. And yet, what do the people in Congress do to support her? They say, let's send $2 billion of your dollars to Egypt, and maybe they'll behave better if we give them more money. But Barry Goldwater, in that book, The Conscience of the Conservative, I think succinctly wrapped up what a lot of us are about when he said, I have little interest in streamlining government or making it more efficient, for I mean to reduce its size. Rather, I propose to extend freedom. My aim is not to inaugurate new programs. My aim is not to pass bills, but to repeal bills. My aim is not to inaugurate new programs, but to cancel old ones that do violence to the Constitution. Goldwater said that I will not attempt to discover whether legislation is needed, before I have discovered whether it is constitutional. And if I am neglected, if I'm accused of neglecting my constituents' interest, I will reply that I was told that my constituents' chief interest was liberty. And in that cause, I am doing the best that I can. I can't think of a more succinct way of talking about liberty and freedom and what we're about. We have to fight it. I do believe we are on a precipice. We have a constitutional republic, but we've been losing it for decades and decades and decades. Jefferson recognized this. Jefferson said that a pure democracy would be nothing more than mob rule. We had to have rules. There are certain things the majority can't take away from us. They can't take away the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, any of the Bill of Rights. The majority has no right. Those rights were given to us by our Creator, and they pre-exist government. When we have a government, we now have a president who fundamentally misunderstands it. It amazes me that people say that he actually taught constitutional law. He said recently that because Obamacare had passed by a majority, to him a significant majority, that the Supreme Court had no right to rule on its constitutionality. We stand at a precipice in our country where we must make decisions, and I don't think we have a lot of time left. Phil Gramm used to talk about there's getting too many people in the wagon and not enough people pulling the wagon. The wagon's getting heavy. Less and less people are working. Less and less people are paying the taxes. We have to do. There's so many people on the receiving end and so few people on the working end that it becomes, you know, we slide into Western socialism, and I'm afraid we're going in that direction. We are at a point where we're borrowing $50,000 a second. We have to do something about it. But in doing so, we need to recognize that we do have choices. It's not all bad news. We have a great country. I tell people it's not that we are inherently exceptional, but our ideas were exceptional. The ideas and heritage of our Constitution and Declaration of Independence are exceptional. Ourselves once again, if we will believe in the system of capitalism that made us great, if we will know and understand that if you want to help your fellow man, if you want a society and a civilization that can create wealth to help your fellow man and to be humanitarian, it's capitalism. It creates wealth like no other country ever has. But we have to believe in ourselves again. We cannot believe that because your neighbor has 3 cars and you have a moped, that we're going to send the president to take one of their cars and get you a car. We have to believe that we want to increase that pie of jobs and wealth can increase if we believe in freedom. If we do, we will thrive again. I hope to be at the forefront of that and to continue to fight for you, and I thank you very much for having me.
Have you been to InfoWarsShop.com lately? Express your inner patriot with these brand new InfoWars t-shirts. Say it loud with the InfoWars Bullhorn shirt, or educate the sheeple with the Bill of Rights shirt. Grope the public's mind with the TSA shirt. And with this shirt, you can let the dark side know of the Rebel Alliance's power. All available at InfoWarsShop.com.
Sick of the globalist eugenicist control freaks adding poison to your water and laughing as you get sick and die? Start purifying your water with ProPure. My friends, I've done a lot of research, and the best gravity filter out there, bar none, is ProPure, and it's available discounted at InfoWars.com. Its filters are silver impregnated to prevent bacterial growth. They're